Welcome to the Kenevo Trial Fitting Guide. To ensure a smooth and successful experience, we will take you step by step through the entire trial fitting from start to finish. When you open the loaner box, you'll find the Kenevo, the loaner tube, the Bluetooth PIN card with the 4-digit connection code, and the charger. Please ensure that the knee is sufficiently charged before the first use. Note that Kenevo units from article number 3C60=5 do have a 0-degree pyramid tilt. Pay special attention during the bench alignment. If necessary, refit adapters are available to compensate for different angles. Prepare all components and tools for the trial fitting. Remember that the loaner axon tube adapters must not be cut. Begin by connecting the tube adapter to the Kenevo. Stow the connected plugs so that they sit at least 3 mm inside the tube. Now, let's connect to the Kenevo. Enable Bluetooth on your Android or Apple device and wake up the knee joint by attaching and detaching the charger. This also activates Bluetooth for pairing. If Bluetooth deactivates during fitting, you can also reactivate it by turning the knee upside down until it gives feedback. Log into the connectgo.pro app. Access is automatically granted after completing the Kenevo certification. Then connect to the Kenevo by selecting the device from the list. With the connection established, we're ready to proceed to the trial with the user. Enter the basic data in the connectgo.pro app. Accurate input is essential for optimal prosthesis control. Pay special attention to the hip flexion contracture. Once all basic data has been entered, you can proceed with the bench alignment, which lays the foundation for a successful trial fitting. Follow the alignment recommendation displayed in the app. Account for a hip flexion contracture by applying the appropriate socket flexion. To flex the socket, tilt it backwards and shift it forwards. Ensure that the alignment reference line runs through the socket reference point. If the hip flexion contracture is not properly considered, the knee may feel unstable, requiring compensatory movements during standing. In addition, stance release may not trigger reliably. Ensure the tube is inserted at least 40 mm, with the printed scale facing anteriorly. Kenevo units from article number 3C60=5 onwards have a 0-degree pyramid tilt. When replacing a knee with a different pyramid tilt, compensate for this during alignment. Refit adapters are available if the pyramid tilt cannot be fully compensated using the screws. Once assembled, check clearances by pushing the socket into full extension and full flexion. Make sure the socket does not contact the knee joint or cosmetic cover. Swap the flexion stops to prevent collisions if needed. Tighten the screws to the specified torque before allowing the user to apply weight. First, perform a manual calibration before the user dons the prosthesis. Use the Lazar posture or an equivalent measurement tool for ground reaction forces to optimize static alignment. The ideal load line runs 20 mm in front of the knee axis, originates from the middle of the foot, and runs vertically, which indicates minimal horizontal compensatory forces. In this example, the load line originates anterior to the middle of the foot. This is often caused by too much plantar flexion of the foot, which shifts the load line and tilts it backward. Adjusting the flexion angle of the foot should improve sagittal alignment. If the compensatory forces still lie outside the target range despite this adjustment, we recommend reviewing the socket flexion. Retorque all screws and recalibrate the knee with an unweighted prosthesis. Once recalibrated, continue by selecting the appropriate activity mode. Start with Mode B for users with sufficient residual limb control and move to Mode B+ or Mode C as appropriate. For a quick refresher, watch the Activity Modes video. When sitting down, the Kenevo's default stance control supports full weight bearing on the prosthesis. To sit down in locked modes, the user must initiate the sitting down movement. Knee flexion occurs only when two conditions are met. The prosthesis is loaded, and the shank rotates backward. Demonstrate this movement pattern to the user. Also show how Kenevo supports the user when standing up again. If the user pauses during the stand-up movement, Kenevo provides support by locking the flexion direction. Conclude with fine-tuning the individual stance phase flexion resistance with the user. Now, let them walk in parallel bars so they can feel how reliably Kenevo supports their first steps. Mode B and B+ especially support walking at a hesitant pace or when additional walking aids are needed. Check for consistent stance release on level ground in modes that allow a swing phase. Consider that stance release occurs later in Mode B and B+ than in Mode C, which offers additional safety in the transition from stance to swing. Activate stance release feedback to ensure mode-specific criteria are met. Now demonstrate the Kenevo's key features, allowing the user to experience its tailored support in real-world activities. When seated, the sitting function allows the shank to swing freely. When standing up, the user immediately regains full knee joint safety. Now let them feel how responsively the Kenevo activates and deactivates the intuitive stance function in Mode C. Also encourage the user to take a few steps backward to experience the safety Kenevo provides. Next, demonstrate the high compliance of Kenevo when negotiating shallow ramps in modes B+ and C. When walking down steeper inclinations, an option for added support is available in Mode C. This setting particularly benefits users who require additional support in these situations. When walking downstairs in Mode C, notice how the controlled extension motion leads to a consistent and predictable foot position with each step. Whenever feasible in relation to the individual's activity level, take the user outdoors so they can experience the benefits of the Kenevo across a range of surfaces. Advanced stumble recovery algorithms safeguard the entire swing phase, providing confidence and reducing the risk of falling. The wheelchair function allows the prosthesis to be locked in a slightly flexed position, providing comfortable support for short indoor distances on level ground. Users may want to try out the intuitive indoor bicycle function, which automatically activates after a few pedal revolutions. Alternatively, the function can also be activated manually via the connectgo user app. While time in a trial fitting may be limited, we encourage you to take a moment to explore the Kenevo training feedback signals, which provide visual and acoustic feedback for training. Users can also activate training feedback at home using the connectgo app for end users. Switch off all training feedback signals at the end of the guided trial and save the data set in the connectgo.pro app. Walk the user through a few final steps before they take the Kenevo home for further testing. If needed, explain the donning function to ease donning in locked modes. Then show them how to charge the knee and what the charging feedback looks and sounds like. Ask the user to download the connectgo user app and show them how to activate Bluetooth on the knee to connect to it. Hand the user the instructions for use, explain safety mode and when it becomes active, and outline the recommended care after water exposure. After completing the trial, switch off the Kenevo with the charger and return all loaner components to Ottobock. By following these steps, you've established a strong foundation for a successful trial experience. For more in-depth information, watch our Kenevo tutorials on the Ottobock Professionals YouTube channel or access them directly in the connectgo.pro app. For additional support, refer to the training materials on My Learning or contact your Ottobock representative.